All right, John, this is a topic that comes from a loyal listener, Dr. Colin Strutt from Westford, Massachusetts.
Never
He's
heard
a
of him.
grammar. Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't have. He's a grammarian, but more importantly, he's a PhD computer scientist and a former colleague of mine, great guy. And one of the things that annoys him is the misuse of the the word affect with an A, affect, and effect with an E.
Yes,
And
that's a common mistake. There's a nice usage note in the American Heritage Dictionary. Basically, the one under affect versus effect. I think the actual usage note is under affect, and what that is what they say when you're using it as a verb. Um, it's confusing because they kind of are synonymous. Um, if you say smoking um, affects health, that means non-smoking affects health. That would be it means it brings about good health. If smoking affects health with an A, that means it influences health. So it's kind of confusing. Basically, what it is with an A, affect means to influence. And the verb, not the noun, the verb effect means to bring about something. So, like
okay,
the new monetary policy in the government will effect great changes. Will bring about great changes.
okay,
And then going back to the other ones, smoking affects our health. Smoking influences our health. But you see that to influence and to bring about are kind of, don't you think, kind of synonymous?
they are. Yeah, I mean, I think that when you look at effect as the verb, and we'll talk about effect as a noun in a second. Affect as a verb is a lighter touch. It's not necessarily. When I look at effect as the verb, as you used it just now, properly, obviously, it seems like it's pretty much one to one. It's a really strong. It's the primary, predominant influence. Whereas affect doesn't necessarily. It's not quite as exclusionary in my mind. Meaning it smoking affects health, but so does exercise. Whereas the one where the political regime change affected uh, foreign policy.
The government. Yeah, exactly. That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah,
So it
to
was
bring about,
really
to bring
direct
about.
influence. So anyway, so that's a great, I think, very very nicely phrased. Now let's talk about the noun effect at this point, which I
And
think
that's
is the more
just,
common usage. Yeah.
oh, the effect. The effect. What is
Yeah.
brought about, the effect of not smoking brings about longevity or something like that. Do you see what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, and I have one. I have a climate change example that I actually prepared a little bit. Climate change affects with an A global sea levels, causing them to rise. That's affect used as a verb, and then rising sea levels are among the many effects with an E of climate change. So
Yeah,
essentially, if you
but
yeah
the second example is a noun, as you're using it
yes
as a noun.
yeah the reality is as a you talk about productive versus receptive vocabulary, which is really
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. That's a key element in my teaching, my pedagogical strategy, and that is it helps you when you're reading if you have a large receptive vocabulary, and learning new words every day is fun. It's fun, and you can remember sometime where you first heard the word. I mean, example. In 1958, I was 18 years old, and one of my next door neighbors and good friend, Jim Bakken, he was a very good quarterback. He actually went on to the NFL and set some kind of a scoring record for field goals, place kicker, field goal kicker, whatever they call it. But he's a good guy. There was an article in the Wisconsin State Journal that says this Adonis. Well, I didn't know what an Adonis was, and so 1958, I looked up the word Adonis, and then every time I've probably seen Adonis maybe 15 times in the last 60 years. And every time I see the word Adonis, I remember the definition. I think of Jim Bakken.
so getting back to the productive versus receptive vocabulary, which you could also say active versus passive vocabulary to some degree, right? It's a similar idea. But when you're looking at affect versus effect, the one to pay attention to as a writer is affect. Think of it as a verb, generally speaking, and it means to influence. Effect, think of it generally as a noun, right? And it's the outcome of that influence, right? Even
Yes.
though affect, like she affected a southern accent, is a different type of use of the verb affect, and effect can be used as a noun. You can use both. If you look it up, affect can be both a noun and a verb. Effect can be both a noun and a verb. But the key is, think about it as the influence with affect as a verb, and think about it as the outcome with effect as a noun. That's my
I think
rule
that's
of
a good.
thumb.
I think that's a good idea.
I had a good idea. Hey man, I mean,
First
we've known
time
each other.
35 years
35.
since we've.
Yeah.
When I almost flunked you when you were, drunk at your fraternity party every Friday evening. Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. Don't let the children
man.
watch this. Don't let
Yeah,
Maya
no,
or
this
Lily
is,
watch
this is
this.
18 and up. That was really risque. So, all right, John, thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Au revoir.
All right.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Let's do a very
right.
continental. Au revoir und leg mich
revoir.
am Arsch.
Au revoir. Leck mich am Arsch. Ah.
Yeah. That was a compliment. That was a compliment.
That was so wonderful of you to say.
I'm that way. I come up with just the right word, the 20 and right word. Okay.
All
Goodbye.
right, button it. Bye.